Our next question comes from Ben, which is a nice name. Hey, love the podcast, the website, and the workouts. A lot. Well, good. That's high praise. A lot. Wondering if you could cover rest weeks, deloading weeks. Um, you know, we get. I always feel like this is one of those questions where, what do you mean by that? I think the genius of Jim Wendler's 5-3-1 program is he he's got enough experience and he's got an insight that when he talks about his every week 4 is always a deload. Um, but it always comes back to one point people might miss. When you're talking about deloading, you got to make sure you're coming at it from a high enough place. Again, the reason I think so many people fail at easy strength is they've never gotten strong before. That's a weird sentence to say, but it's true. So generally, I talk about this. If you go to the gym 4 times a month and you bench 200 pounds, I call that the sort of max. If you get serious about it and you put everything you have into training for 6 months and you drive your bench up to 300 pounds, that's your max. With the max, we can start talking about deloading a little bit. But then you got a situation where you're at the nationals, and if you make this lift, you're the national champion. And if you miss it, you go home in flames. I call that the max. Generally, good lifters have a story about their best lifts. My friend Dave Tate, who's a genius, he says that if he sees a weightlifting program where you go above 90% in the first, I want to say 51 weeks, he throws it out the window because you don't know what strong is. And I thought, wow. So one of the things about deloading is this. If you're on that beginner's early rise, you don't need to deload. Basically, you've been deloading most of your life. Now you're loading. But there's going to come a time, and you'll see it with the numbers, where you start to get a little stale. That's when you have to naturally take the tension off. I always use the image of a bow and arrow. You know, I'm pulling. Pulling more isn't going to make the arrow go farther. I got to let it go. So there are times for natural let it goes. For most people I know, their life deloads for them. That vacation you take to Cancun, there's your deload. When you go to Devin's wedding, there's your deload. The 2 weeks of Christmas when you got the kids in the house, Ben, I don't know your situation, but most of us naturally have these deload and off periods every year, naturally. Once you move up into the bigger numbers, you have to build in deloads. And I'm speaking, of course, about natural athletes only. You have to build in the deloads because you have to. Now, if you're like Marty Gallagher, 12 weeks you train up for the meet, and then I don't see you anymore. You focus on going for long walks and eating good food. That is how he deloads. Jim Wendler, 1, 2, 3, deload. 1, 2, 3, deload. 1, 2, 3, deload. The key is this, Ben, is you have to look at your life and your schedule. I always suggest get that big map from Office Max, the one that has January, February, March, April, and then just go in naturally. And I would take a red pen and X out those areas where you're gone, vacation, anniversary weekend, those kinds of things, where it's probably not a good idea to train at the highest levels. Then take a yellow highlighter and highlight those, those weeks with issues. And then finally find those areas with the green pen and the green highlighter and X those out. And those are the months or weeks you go for it. And most people I work with, normal people, they see naturally there's more red sometimes than any other color. With some people, it's always yellow. And then with some people, they've got clean green holes. If you have green holes, have green areas on your map, those when you do bus bench programs. Yellow is when you do the park bench programs, and red is natural deload. If you're good enough, then you have to stick those deloads in. I like Wendler's idea, and I wish I'd have done more of this with every 4th week. You go in, you do the movements, um, you drop the load down, you drop the reps down um, as low as 60% with very easy rep schemes, and just do the do the movements, feel good for a week, and then go back after it the next week. I know it's vague, and the reason it's vague is because there's so many pieces of information you need to understand a deload week. I hope that helped.